You asked for it, and now here it is. iOS, the iPhone's operating system, is somewhat of a joke. It is so darn limited in its stock state, and there are honestly not nearly as many options as if you were to use an Android, which, if you're an iPhone user, I'm sure you're tired of being badgered about. It's just the truth. Android has always been more customizable and more open than iPhone, for a good reason. Apple has made you come to expect easy use, security, and longevity with their iPhones. With Android, you expect freedom, customization, and longevity as long as you aren't a dimwit. And that's just how the two made their public outlook. So how does an iPhone user go about unlocking their device's full potential? Take a wild guess. Homebrew. In this video, we'll be going over my favorite iPhone homebrew that doubles as reasons to jailbreak your iPhone in the first place. Quick disclaimer, jailbreaking an iPhone isn't nearly as easy or as straightforward as jailbreaking a 3DS. There are tons of different articles and methods, but for the sake of this video, I'm glossing over all that and assuming you at least have Cydia and AltStore. And for the record, I tested all this homebrew with the Uncover custom firmware on an iPhone XR in version 14.7.1. So I can only guarantee that all the homebrew shown off will work on that version. But double check the repositories in the description to see if they work with your current iOS version. I'm going to be showcasing iPhone homebrew in 4 different categories: necessities, quality of life, emulators, and some fun apps / cool tools. Let's get started. Necessities. These are the mods that are absolutely lifesavers, and you practically need them. vNode bypass. If you're considering jailbreaking your iPhone, it is important to keep in mind that some games and apps have anti-jailbreak measures. vNode bypass does what the name implies and bypasses those measures. I use this a ton, and from my experience, it works with Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, Mario Kart Tour, and Mario Run. And it should work with a lot of other games as well. Of course, it might not work with everything you need. The great thing is, if you need a bypass for a certain app, you can just Google it, and if it's popular enough, chances are a bypass exists. I also recommend using Hestia because it's a pretty good bypasser as well, so that repo is also in the description. Safe reboot / safe respring. It is important to know that whenever you reboot a jailbroken iPhone, the iPhone returns to its stock state and it's no longer in jailbroken mode. Safe reboot lets you reboot your device without dealing with this annoying setback, and safe respring lets you respring your device when it's being buggy. Sadly, I couldn't find the repo for these anymore, but there is an alternative called Panic, and it's free, so there's that. Alt-Daemon. I hope I pronounced that right. It is so annoying to have to plug in my phone to my computer every week just to refresh my apps. Alt-Daemon lets you bypass this by letting you refresh from anywhere. It truly is a lifesaver, and it even does it automatically as long as you launch the AltStore app to wake it up occasionally. Or you could just set it up to refresh as a custom event in the built-in Shortcuts app. Files of File Manager. This is a basic file manager that lets you access files that the official Files app doesn't allow you to. There is a free version, and it's pretty much a requirement if you're going to be installing your legally owned backed up ROMs to legally emulate. AppSync Unified. When paired with Files of File Manager, this tweak allows you to install unsigned and unofficial IPAs that iOS would typically block. If you're somehow unaware as to what IPAs are, consider them an installer for an application with all the data built in as opposed to downloading a bunch of packages like modern video games. Just a little disclaimer, there are repos offering versions of Uncover that work even after the standard reboot. However, those only work on specific iOS versions, and I like to keep it so standard reboot boots my phone back to normal in case something happens, so I can't speak on their legitimacy and usefulness. It's still worth bringing up because I know someone would leave a comment about it otherwise, so consider this me acknowledging the fact it exists. Okay, those are the main necessities I highly recommend. Now moving on to the quality of life mods. My blocks. Are you tired of getting dumb ads and pop-ups when browsing the internet? My blocks blocks those and only allows websites to redirect you if you accept an on-screen prompt. Add to folder. If you're anything like me and find adding apps to folders being very tedious and inaccurate, you'll love this next week. Simply titled Add to Folder, it lets you hold down an app and gives you an Add to Folder option. Clicking this will allow you to select a specific folder to send the app to. And it also adds the option to create a whole new folder then and there. Super handy in my opinion. iCleaner Pro. This makes it so much easier to free up space and see exactly what's sucking up your storage. Fast Lock X lets you unlock your phone with Face ID without having to swipe up. It's a time saver. Delete Forever XS adds an option to your phone's picture delete menu to instantly delete the photo rather than just sending it to that stupid deleted album. Exact Time lets you see, well, the exact time you receive notifications. Seriously, why isn't this a built-in option? Alright, those are the quality of life mods I want to talk about. So now moving on to emulators. The fact so many exist shocked me. You can emulate a ton of consoles on iPhone. Delta Emulator. The Delta Emulator strives to be an all-in-one emulator for iOS. Its description literally reads, Delta is an all-in-one emulator for iOS. Delta works for emulating NES, SNES, N64, Game Boy Advance, and the Nintendo DS. So it's not an all-in-one emulator. I can't say much about performance because that will vary drastically depending on what iPhone model you're using, but it works fine with the iPhone XR. You can install an IPA of it directly from the official website, or you can install it via AltStore. If you want an actual all-in-one emulator for iOS, you can't go wrong with the RetroArch port. Judging from other people's gameplay demonstrations, it runs fine and it even supports NetPlay, which is pretty cool. But the official site only supports iOS 6 through 11. Dolphin Emulator. I was really shocked with this one. Wii and GameCube games run pretty much full speed from my experience running this emulator with the XR. It has pretty much all the features and stability you'd expect from the amazing emulator that Dolphin is, but no multiplayer, which is fine and seems like too much to ask for, to be honest. You can install Dolphin iOS via the repo and description or through AltStore. Dreamcast, Naomi, and Atomic Wave can also be emulated on iOS. I don't have much experience with any of these consoles, but it's still worth bringing up. The installation's a bit more complicated than the other emulators shown in this video, so I'll just link a guide in the description. Oh yeah, it runs well on the iPhone XR, enough said really. The Prominence emulator allows you to emulate all of these consoles. Holy moly, this just blew Delta out of the water. PPSSPP lets you emulate PSP games. It runs well, but I can't say I didn't expect that since the PSP is already a handheld device and it's pretty old. A Citra 3DS emulator iOS port has been talked about for a while, but I couldn't find an actual release, so keep an eye out for when that drops. Okay, that wraps up the emulation segment of this video. I was honestly surprised with how well emulation worked on the iPhone, especially with some of the newer consoles. Pretty much every game I tried ran full speed. Now moving on to the cool tools and fun apps. Snowboard allows you to install themes downloaded from the same repo it's contained in. Using it is really easy and intuitive. Just search for a theme you want on the repo in Cydia, install it, then enable it in settings in Snowboard. There are other repos to find themes as well, so I suggest browsing around for one you like. Also, it used to be hosted on the Packix repo, but I can't find it there anymore, so I'll just link the version on Cheris. App Store++. App Store++ is cool because it lets you downgrade to a certain version of an app. Say you want to revert to a specific version of Minecraft Pocket Edition, App Store++ lets you do so. Canvas lets you set up custom CarPlay wallpapers. I don't know how, since, Oh my god! UTM allows you to create virtual machines for a slew of different operating systems right on your iPhone. If you've ever wanted to use Windows on your iPhone, this is it. You can get it from AltStore or the repo in description. Spring Sounds lets you change some system sounds such as keyboard clicks, lock sounds, photo shutters, plug sounds, received messages sounds, and sent messages sounds. Pretty cool. Color My Dock lets you edit that little bar at the bottom's color. Literally nothing else to say about it. I mean, it's pretty cool. ReproVision Reborn lets you re-sign IPs and install them directly onto your iPhone. It serves as a nice, more open alternative to AltStore. Crashed. It's a crash reporter for iOS for all you nerds out there. Alrighty, that's all the homebrew I want to talk about for iOS, at least for now. If you know any other tweaks that are cool, feel free to drop them in the comments. Also, if that subscribe button is white, you're doing it wrong, click it to make it gray. Have a nice day.